Coexistence at any cost is not, in fact, a virtue. Sometimes you really just have to kill them all. I hastened to add, by the way, this is not a rant brought on by any current events, or well, it sort of kind of is, but a video game event, YouTube, please, as I just finished playing through Xenonauts 2 on stream, and I really can recommend the game, by the way. It is a rather good game, even if I don't really feel like it deserved the 2 part of the title, as it doesn't quite do enough on the predecessor to warrant a full-blown sequel, rather than merely just a meaty expansion, but oh well, details. Hopefully they will expand a lot more upon the bones that they now have. Anyways, the point I am moving towards here is that the ending of the game felt really kind of weird. So, the aliens in Xenonauts are not actually aliens as in extraterrestrial. Well, they can be kind of, but the main thing is they are interdimensional beings, and so they are conquering various planets through dimensions rather than through space. In a way, their Earth is our Earth, and our Earth is their Earth. They have eventually arrived at our planet and decided we must be subjugated, because we are the only other rapidly technologically advancing species they have ever encountered, and so they've got to subjugate our asses now, otherwise we're probably gonna come for them at some point in the future. But on the final mission of the game, you go to their home world and kill their leader, as well as take control over the thing that allows them to cross the dimensional barriers. They surrender, and suddenly everything is roses and rose petals and nice smells and wifty-wafties, as apparently the years that follows, the extraterrestrials take their place alongside mankind as equal citizens of the Federation. What? First and foremost, equal citizens. Secondly, why? Not to mention also the Federation, by the way, as, yes indeed, all of Earth's various quabbles over ideology, religion, politics, etc. just disappear in thin air as the aliens are defeated, and they all universally acclaim me as their new, Federation dictator. Okay, well, as much as that does tickle my pickle, of course, in even the preceding Xenonauts, they made it clear that after the aliens were defeated, now basically every single force on Earth, all of the nations, Soviet Union, America, etc., were all like, oh boy, well, there are no more aliens, let's get back to arguing amongst ourselves for all of that sweet, sweet technological booty. It's a weird ending that seems to wrap everything up. Humans' lives become longer, healthier, and vastly more comfortable as we are surrounded by aliens, including the biologically immortal Eternals, whom we are supposed to just assume, I guess, will never plot against us at any point. Why? Why would we assume this? Not to mention, again, the extraterrestrials too, right, okay, so obviously some of them, like the cleaners, are merely just indoctrinated humans with a little bit of brain damage. Sure, popping them back into human society isn't going to be that much of a deal. Things like the sectoids or the scions would probably sort of kind of work, although I don't know how the majority of the human population would feel about living alongside psionic aliens capable of peeping into their minds and frying their brains as well and mind controlling them. Sounds like there would be some complications there. Other things like the mantids, we literally can't communicate with them. They make it clear in the game's codexes that we cannot figure out how they bloody speak. So either we all have to become psionic ourselves, or somehow utilize the scions as translators, which seems weird and bubbly, or things like the civilians, which also, by the way, have quite the transformation from the in-game art to the end-game art, as here they're crocodile people, and here they're more iguana-esque lizards. Did they just forget about the art direction halfway through or something? It's one of the many things that make the ending feel a bit weird. They are very low IQ lizard people, cold-blooded hunters in essence. And it gets worse, you got shit like the Reapers, for example, who multiply by punching other creatures with their ginormous wrist spikes and injecting their children into them, whereupon the larva will eat them from the inside out, bursting out of them fully grown as further Reapers. We cannot coexist with this. It simply isn't possible. Yeah, like, they build tanks out of giant floating tortured brains. Are you really telling me that nobody on Earth would raise a hand at this and go like, that sounds extraordinarily unethical? In fact, why are you even choosing to coexist with a species who made it their life goals to fucking enslave every other creature they came across, turn them into brain-damaged puppets for their continued colonial conquests? I mean, fucking Christ. The Nazis pale by comparison to these little shitlings. Not to mention, where are all of the other species they must have come across? You know, they're interdimensional. They must have come across hundreds, if not thousands, of other dimensions. Are you telling me that civilians, wraiths, etc., chittids, these were the only sentient species they came across? Nothing else? They didn't have found any dogs or low-level intelligent species or anything like that? What happened to those, I wonder? And I do question whether or not there were camps involved, or if they simply just orbital bombarded them like they tried to do with us. I could go on for quite a while on the myriad reasons why coexisting with these things isn't really in the cards. And, right, to bring this back to the more theoretical aspect, so as to not get in too much trouble here, but coexistence at any cost is not actually a virtue. If we kill our enemy don't actually win. We win. We killed our enemy. If we press the gun to the last Eternal's head and press the final trigger, the war is over. It's actually finished right there. And considering the countless crimes they have committed even just against the human species, as I think I ended the game with something along the lines of 2 million civilian casualties. Listen, I took my sweet-ass time disabling their orbital bombardment weapon, okay? I was busy doing other things, like ordering Elenium through eBay so I can make more power armor. Anyways, the point is, they were douchebags. They were carrying out active terror missions against civilian population centers purely just for shits and giggles, where they let their arm-breeding raptor monsters just kind of skitter around impaling civvies. They have committed every single crime we can think of, and there's only about 1,000 of them. There really isn't that many reasons why we can't just deal with them the good old-fashioned way. Hell, we've done it to our own kind often enough, haven't we? And again, furthermore, certain species like these would just actually need to be exterminated. So, why then do we have this sudden, weird, disjointed, out-of-place end of the game, where we all join hands and sing Kumbaya? Well, it kind of reminds me of an XCOM DLC, or technically I think it was actually sort of a standalone game, I've been told at least, but with all of the various models and things from the previous game, called Chimera Squad. In Chimera Squad, you take command over a sort of pseudo-kind-of-ish XCOM, but not really, after you've defeated the ethereal masters of the alien invasion, and you are fighting now alongside the aliens to police human civilization. Now, I get that could be fun in a way to be like, oh, you know what, I would like to control the aliens too. Wouldn't that be cool? Why can't I have some sextoids and some cool psychic abilities? Sort of. I see the promise there, but it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, hell, in XCOM 2, it kind of makes more sense if the majority of those aliens were just outright brain controlled half the time and didn't really have any choice, whereas in Xenonauts, well, several of the things they're just predatory up and out. So why do we even do this? And feels like the answer is this kind of modern day, everybody joined hands and sang Kumbaya together and never became hostile at any point, you were perfect friends for all eternity, or at the very least so long as the human player character survived, after which he died. Presumably the Ethereals suddenly went like, oh hey, you know what, we are immortal, and we could simply just wait until the one guy who defeated us shuffles off this mortal soil, after which we resume hostilities against humanity. They even let us keep our army intact. They are a stupid fucking species. Anyways, that seems like the more reasonable outcome. There's also the possibility, by the way, that this is all kind of a trick ending, and that they're going to try and build up to an XCOM 2 expansion thing. Was it? No, that wasn't expansion. That was actually XCOM 2, wasn't it? Where the commander is proven to be, like, mind-buggered, and so when you come back, you're like, oh, we've got to save the commander. Actually, he's been running simulations against XCOM. That could be cool and would invalidate my entire rant here, but it feels like it's one of those modern day ideas that we cannot ever choose the more extreme option, even when the more extreme option is literally the correct one. This, by the way, is partially inspired by the latest long-form video on why left-wing extremism leads inevitably to violence. How it is not even a consequence of their actions, it is the goal. It is the end goal in and of itself. And I know the defense will be, no, it's not the end goal. Utopia is the end goal. Well, listen here, utopia isn't gonna fucking happen. It's a literal impossibility. Even if somehow the Soviets managed to develop brain-controlling technology to wash the little minds of every single human being on the planet, they would still need to carry out this actively and continuously for every little baby born to continue to enforce their version of socialism. And even if they could do that, the sheer resource limitations of the fucking planet would still prevent utopia, and so on. And thus, if the end goal is a literal impossibility, we need instead to look at what it actually causes when you pursue it. In the case of this, it is violence, violence, violence on every single occasion when true socialism has been pursued. In fact, the only peaceful revolutions that have ever happened have been to move away from authoritarianism and toward good old-fashioned democratic capitalism. And there becomes the question quite clear and problematic, namely, if we assume this to be true, as history has proven time and time and time and time again, is coexistence even possible? Is kumbayaism even possible in a scenario where you are opposite a force that wants you dead, intrinsically, automatically, and doctrinally? And what are the actions justified in order to prevent that violence? Well, now we're getting a little bit too close to comfort to reality yet again, but it annoyed me, the ending of Xenonauts 2, because here we don't even have all of the complicated ethical and moral questions of our current day situation. We are literally stood opposite a bunch of baby-eating crocodilian monsters and their unfathomably dangerous biological weapon equivalents and floating just brains in jars, etc. We don't need to feel bad about this, and the ending literally should be, the enemy was now leaderless. We hunted them down until we'd wiped every single last mother-humping one of them from our planet, and then we burned their galactic gateways, as the Eternals were the only ones with the technological capabilities to actually build one of those things. Again, bear you in mind here, we were the only other technological civilization that ever come across. The Reapers weren't going to build anything. The Mentarchs are literally just servitors. Do these guys look like they're going to be building any massive intergalactic gateways anytime soon? Or the civilians, for that matter? Are they going to cross dimensions to screw with us at some point in the future? No. They'll be reduced back to the ambush predators covering the savannah of their homeworld as previously. And we, humanity, can just go on with our day, choosing perhaps at some point in the future to build our own gateway to come visit them, and probably do exactly the same as the Eternals did as well. Anyways, that's my rant on that topic. Thank you very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.